Shout out to Gigs.
Come on.
I always heard about Gigs, obviously, and then Hove. Said I see a lot of Hove and Gigs. Like that's a big compliment.
How crazy is that for the U.S.
That's big.
demographic
That's
to hear
big.
that?
That's big. A lot of times people don't even know like what one bar could do for somebody. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of people that might not even be familiar with him, but then just Jay-Z saying that, they research and they looking online, they looking at freestyles, like, you know what I'm saying? So
DJ Firestarr keeping it smashed.
DJ Firestarr, Spotify, Influential Records, I'm Not New to This, Dash Radio, special guests in the building all the way from the US, the big dogs, Troy Milling Rashad Bilal. What's good, my brothers?
Firestarr, what's going on?
How you feeling, guys? Like, back in the UK, talk to me about, you got a lot coming up this weekend. You know, we're going to jump into all of that, but I want to talk about the love that you got from the last visit when you were out here. Since then, just touch a little bit on sort of how it spiraled from there to bring us to where we are now.
yeah, it's vibes, man. Last time we was out here, we did a networking event, like a free networking event at Tape London. Shout out to them, just to kind of test the waters. It was our first time out here to do like an event. It was a lot of I was out here before, but it was a lot of ours first time out here, period. So we wasn't really sure the kind of support that we had in the UK. So we figured we just do a free event just to kind of test the waters. And anybody that's been to Tape, holds probably like 300, maybe 350 at the most. And 2,500 people showed up. So it was 2,200 people outside. So it was
massive,
crazy.
Massive.
It was crazy. They said they never saw anything like that at Central London.
I ain't seen anything like that, to be real with you. I was telling Troy off camera, there's a couple UK artists who I've been speaking to this week, some real certified rappers. I need to shout out Rimsey as well, my guy, dropped the new tape. And he was telling me, yo, Firestarr, like, you're chopping it up with the guys. I pulled up to the Tape situation they had, and man couldn't even get in.
Mans couldn't even get in.
So, sorry to anybody that couldn't get in, man, but that just showed us, like, damn, we really got a lot of support here. So from there, they reached out to us to do Royal Albert Hall, which, I was educated on how prestigious of a venue that was, how important of a venue that was. So when they brought it to our attention and like, you interested in doing a show at Royal Albert Hall, I'm like, yeah, of course, we got to do that. So, put that together. And in a short period of time, 'cause we were just out here in February. Mm-hmm. So now we back out here. So it hasn't even been a year. So.
Yeah, you're talking like it's like light work. Like we just clicked our fingers and put it together. But like, how much work does it take to put on something like Monday, which is coming, and even the weekend that you've got planned with all the talks, the parties? Let's not forget we're not going to forget the parties.
We outside.
Can't forget the parties. Can't forget the parties.
Putting something like that together, like, it's no joke. Royal Albert Hall, the lineup is hench, crazy. Like, I was asking Troy about how does it work? Like, how are you cramming everyone in? Like, the planning, like, is that a lot for you guys? Is it the team behind the scenes sort of alleviate a lot of the pressure for you guys? But yeah, talk about that, putting it together.
It's a lot of moving parts, but that's why having a strong team alleviates some of that. So, it's not just one event. Like, we have an event that we were doing in August that had 14,000 people there in Atlanta, which was crazy. We have another event in New York in November, which, we prepare for that too. But everything is strategic, when the main focus right now has been the Royal Albert Hall. And so we dedicate a lot of time to that, reaching out. I know Shai's been on the Zoom calls probably every single day. I'm reaching out to people out here as well, just to see, to get the word out here. I feel like the power of information is really the testament, right? When we came last time, it was like, wow, look at how much the information can bring people together. And there's people from all walks of life. Like you said, there was artists out there. There was some street dudes out there. There was some professionals out there. And so they all came unified for one message. And so that's been the most encouraging thing. It's like, this is crazy. But yeah, it takes a lot of time, a lot of planning, a lot of patience. You're dealing with a lot of different personalities, right? Sure. We're dealing with people in the business world, but we're dealing with people in the entertainment world. We're dealing with their managers. We're dealing with event planners. And so it takes a lot of time and patience. But, in the end, we know the outcome, what it's going to be. So it's all worth it.
The lineup is like 20, 30 plus people. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, in between the 2 days. So we got VIP, which is a workshop that we're going to do on Sunday. And then that's a more intimate gathering. And then we got Royal Albert Hall on Monday. So between that, it's about 20 people between the Sunday situation and then Monday.
The love that you received, was it overwhelming to you guys to see that amount of interest in entrepreneurship, business, finance, like, or did you have any idea before you stepped to the UK that it could be a situation? Because I'll be honest, like 300 for you guys sounds hella small. So whoever was planning that first trip maybe should have known, it should have been a bigger situation.
I think with everything, we kind of go into things with no expectation. So, to see, once we got out the car, I remember looking like, this is for us? Like, this is pretty interesting. But it would slightly, not overwhelming, but it was super encouraging. All right, when you see people coming from the Netherlands, people coming from France, or coming from Spain, we had some Jamaican massive in there. It was like, wow, this is super dope. And look, we're not in a place that people normally would think we would go, right? Like, this is an international journey, but like I said, the power of information, the power of people coming together to share it and learn information. It tells you how hungry, not only with that, the people in the United States, which has catapulted our success, but the people internationally are hungry for the information too. And so, like, I told them the information is always going to be on us, the application is on them. And so I'm starting to see, when we walk around, especially the streets of London, people are telling us all the things that they've been doing with the information. So it's been extremely encouraging.
There's hella sort of coverage on you guys. There's so much to read online, etc., etc. But what I wanted to ask for the audience, and especially the UK audience, is a little bit about back in the day, growing up for you guys outside of the Bronx or in the Bronx. It's like near the Bronx. Is that correct?
Yeah. So he, we both was born in the Bronx. He was born in the South Bronx. I was born in the North Bronx, and that's where our families are from. But then we both of our families moved to Westchester, which is a suburb outside of the city. And I guess people kind of know like DMX and the Locks and Mary J. Blige, like they really was real popular in our area. Like they're from Yonkers, which isn't far from where we grew up, in a town called Greenburg. It's like a real small town, but there's a lot of history in that area. Mount Vernon is another place, like that's where Diddy's from. That's where Heavy D. It's a lot of like, R&B artists and rap artists that come from that area. But long story short, where we grew up is like a real small town. So you get kind of the best of both worlds because it's a half an hour outside of the city, but it's also, really, really small. Like everybody knows each other. A lot of people are related. Everybody, best friends, sister, brother, everybody like that. So that helped our relationship and pretty much our whole camp because everybody that we have around us for Earn Your Leisure, we pretty much grew up with. So we all knew each other. We all played basketball together. We all went to each other's houses. We all had cookouts together. So that's just kind of how we grew up. Like, like real close knit. Real, everybody knows each other's parents, stuff like that. So, me and Troy, our relationship goes back from when I first met him. I was in 6th grade. He was in 8th grade. He's a little older than me. And we've been rocking ever since. So over 20 years of just like, talking to each other every day. And then our other partner, Mike, also, we knew each other our whole lives as well. So our dynamic isn't something that just started like just a couple years ago, or we didn't start with business. Like we started with a real relationship and grew that into business later on down the line.
At what point did you look at it and say, like, oh shit, like this is really something now? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's gone from like trying to build something and maybe you're still working on other things outside of that, and then you come to the point where it's like, oh, okay, we're really like kind of onto something. Like, can you talk about when that experience was?
I think both of our stories might be a little different. I had watched Mike and Shadi. They were entrepreneurs. And so I was the guy that had the 9-to-5 I was teaching. And I remember just, being in class and like watching text messages and they're going back and forth. And I can't really respond because there's like 30 kids in front of me. So I'm trying to juggle that. But I remember one time we had put up a post. It was early on, maybe in the first 2 or 3 episodes. And I was reading the comment sections. And it was a comment from somebody in prison. And then under that was somebody in Kuwait. And they had just taken something from the episode. And I was like, wow, I'm standing here with kindergarten kids, right? And I can impact them. But through this platform, I can impact somebody throughout the world. Like somebody's listening in Kuwait, somebody's listening in prison right now. And it hit me like, I've got to chase where I can have the biggest impact, right? Because at school, I can impact just that building, maybe that classroom, if I'm lucky, the school district. But it's going to be tough to impact the entire state from where I'm sitting. But through this platform, I can do that with one episode. And so it was like, all right, this is it. Like we got to chase this. This is the biggest impact.
So you knew at that point.
That was the moment, yeah.
This is ringing off like.
Yeah, and I got tired of them like texting. I'm like, yo, I can't talk right now.
I hear that. What about for you?
For me, I think the moment like we really knew it was something big was we did a event. Our first event like outside of New York was in L.A. and we did an event in L.A. and it was last minute planning, and it was like an hour away from downtown L.A. and it was early in our podcast journey, and we packed out the place. So that was something that was dope for us because LA's on the other side of the country from where we from, New York. So we wasn't, once again, like coming to London, we didn't know how the support was going to be. We didn't know if people even knew who we were out there at that time. So to see that support, to see people drive like 2 hours, 3 hours, I knew like, okay, this is something that's bigger than just, a podcast, or something that's bigger than just, social media. Like this is something that really is impacting people's lives. So that's when I kind of knew like, we on to something big here.
Yeah, for sure. And I know you've touched on it before as well, that the fact that you're able to visit all of these countries and the travel side, I mean, I guess the aim is to just touch as many places as possible going forward, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's just like music. Like, artists, they travel all over the world because they touch their audience, they reach their new audiences, they do relationships, stuff like that. So we look at ourselves no different. So, we have markets that we have to, cater to and markets that we have to expand in. So coming here is like both. Like, we have an audience here, but we also want to expand here. Like we know that we have a good base here, but it's nowhere near where it is in America, where it is in New York. So, God willing, we'll be able to have the UK just as strong as America. And that's going to be not only beneficial for us, but obviously beneficial to millions of people that can benefit from information, make money, become entrepreneurs, become investors, and really change the trajectory of their whole family's lives.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's only a matter of time before you guys are here on a regular basis. I mean, that's, you know what I mean? I think the trips are going to become very, very frequent.
That's been the goal, right? So like our message wasn't one that was just an American message. It was a global message. And so if we're going to have a global message with global topics, we need to travel, right? So when we come to London, let's find out what's going on here. Let's find out the rules and regulations, how businesses run here. When we go to Africa, same thing, right? Then we go to Ghana, we go to Egypt. We're touching the base, but we want to know what's happening here. We want to find out who the entrepreneurs are, who the businessmen and women are, so we can actually get the information and then relay it. That's one of the things that we've been known for, right? Is like we would be able to get information, give it back in a relatable way that people actually can apply it. And so it's on a global scale, right? So that's what we're going to continue to do, is travel globally, find the topics, and spread the word.
And I think that goes for growing your UK DJ circuit team as well, because I know we got a couple of parties coming up this weekend.
Don't forget
that. So another question, on the journey that you guys have been on and been involved in, what can you say about the black and brown community in terms of where they're at in terms of the financial literacy point? Like how much are they starting to take on things on board? Do you think, we're in an era where a lot of people are maybe lost? Because there's a lot of stuff going on in the world as well. Like I feel like sometimes people don't know where to turn and they don't know what information is credible and what's not credible. But just from where you started to where we are now, especially in terms of, again, the black community, the brown community, Asian community, how have you seen the transition through this time?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's picking up steam. Like, it's still a lot of work to do, but I feel like just from a mindset standpoint, I've seen a lot of change. People are more confident now. People believe, before people didn't even necessarily think that they could become an entrepreneur. They didn't think that they could make money in business. So it's like the only way that you could really survive is just to work a 9-to-5 job. But now they actually are believing that. That's the first step. Before anything, you actually have to believe it. So starting to see that now more everywhere we go. And then also the implementing the information as well, right? Like see that as well too, where it's like, okay, now you believe it, you have the information, but the most important part is actually to implement the information. So starting to see that and starting to see, in America, they had a stat where I think the majority of new investors in the stock market last year were black. So that's like the first time ever in history that that's happened. And I think that we have a large part to play in that. So it's like, now it's people are encouraged and they're ready to take action. And like I said, that's like that anywhere we go. And I feel like, just breaking the systems, breaking the mindset and the way that, people were taught, especially like people that like are immigrants as well. Because, if you're an immigrant to a country, your family is not educated on the system. So 9 times out of 10, they're operating out of fear. They're like, I don't want to go back to my old country, so let's just assimilate, let's just fall in line. You don't want to disrupt the system. You don't want to ask too many questions. You know what I'm saying? You just try and just get along. And that's something that, you know, a lot of like parents and grandparents kind of, you know, put into their children. But now the children are starting to see like, all right, well, I'm not an immigrant anymore. I'm an actual citizen. Yeah. So I deserve all the rights that any other citizen would get. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter where you come from. You here now. Yeah. So, you know, you might as well get the whole piece of the pie. So that's what I think is important to understand, especially on a global scale.
Yeah, he's speaking to me, man. That's my family. You know, I'm first generation American, first generation financially literate, and so I think what we've seen is that the conversations are changing, right? Wherever we go, whether it's the barber shop or we go out to a party or we walk in the street, the first thing, especially when people see us, is they want to show us their portfolios. They want to show us how much money they made. They want to know what to invest in.
They don't want the photo. They just
like we're not talking about who the best basketball player or who the best rapper is anymore. Like that's still conversations, but majority of them now are based on how they're going to better themselves and how they're going to invest. And so that's encouraging. And then we also, I think there's a lot that goes into seeing people who are doing things that are positive, right? So that statistic about people investing, I would imagine they saw people like us doing it. And so it's like, it feels attainable. When they see somebody doing something in logistics, that might not have been something that was always something on the forefront of their mind. Like we see trucks passing us every day. We don't think that there's money, right? That's somebody's business that's passing us. And so seeing people in these new spaces, I mean, it gives a different type of appetite, you know, for what you can be in life. And I think that's super important. For so long, I feel like there was only a few things that we thought we could be. If it wasn't in entertainment and sports, it was like, all right, well, what am I going to do, right? And if I did something else, are we going to be celebrated? And so people are watching us in this space and they're watching others and saying, like, these guys are cool, these young ladies are cool. Wait, I can be them, still be cool, still have relevance, still be authentic to who I am, and still have success. And so that's just a new way of thinking right now.
We're not in a world where someone's going to hand something to you on a plate. You know, you've got to ask the questions. You've got to not be scared to go and find out. So in relation to information and fear in the sense of the climate that we're in, you know, financially, there's going to be people listening, people watching. You know, you guys get it. I watch it. Market Mondays, there's hella people just starting out. There's always new people getting involved, trying to invest. Give a little bit of advice on the guys that are starting out with the current climate that we're in, because obviously money's tight, like across the world for a lot of people right now. And in the UK especially, I'm sure you guys are aware, like energy prices and rent, and there's a lot of issues.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough times right now globally, in America, the UK, all over the world. But the good thing is that there's opportunities in every crisis. And a lot of businesses start during recessions. And there's always investment opportunities when the market goes down also. So from an investing standpoint, I feel like this is a good time to actually, if you've never invested ever before, this is a good time to invest because the market is down. Stock market is down. Crypto is down. You know, a lot of things are down right now. So the number one rule of investing is buy low, sell high. So especially, like I said, if you've never invested before, then this is actually an opportunity for you to buy low. And hopefully, you know, potentially as time goes up and prices go back up again, now you can see your investment increase over the course of time. And then from just a financial economic standpoint, I feel like this is a time to get as much information as possible and to take risk because, you know, I feel like, you know, there's always opportunities, but you really can't lose if you don't have much to lose. So that's how I look at it as well, like starting a business and doing entrepreneurship, stuff like that. Like, you know, most of us didn't really start with a tremendous cushion. So if worse comes to worse, we just go back to where we already at, which that's not really too difficult to do because we've already been there. So, but the best case scenario is that your whole life changes, and that's very possible. Especially nowadays, there's so many opportunities. Like, you know, I tell people all the time, you could change your life with a cell phone, and that's what we did. You know, we started a whole media company, but it all started with an iPhone. And everybody has an iPhone, everybody has a smartphone. So a lot of times, we overthink things, we make excuses, we overcomplicate things. Just start. It's never gonna be perfect. You're never gonna have all the information. You know, you start in a clothing brand, you start with one t-shirt, press it up. That's how you start your clothing. You start in a media company, start with one phone and start an Instagram page and then grow into a podcast and then grow into a YouTube channel and then grow into these are things that you can actually really do in real time right now. And this is a unique moment in history because it really wasn't capable to do that, any other time. Like 10 years ago, you couldn't do what we do now. You couldn't do what we do 20 years ago. Like you would have to go through a major distribution channel to actually put out content. Now anybody can become a content creator and make money. So I feel like, look at the positives, not the negatives. Look at the opportunities, take chances, work together. That's extremely important as well because you can only do so much by yourself. So there's power in unity. And just go for it. Because like I said, the worst case scenario is that it doesn't work, but it's a learning lesson. So there's never any losses, there's only lessons. And it's better to die with failure than to live with regret. That's how I look at it.
Yeah. He talked about that. That's like that theory of zero. Yeah. It's like when we start at zero and we get to 1,000, we're closer to zero than if we had 1,000,000. Right, so our risk mindset, our risk tolerance, it should be a little different, but we have it backwards, right? Like when we have $1,000, it's like, I can't lose this 1,000, I'm almost back to zero. Yeah. So it's interesting, like that goes back to the mindset. But I used to just, when people ask me where to start, I kind of broke it down into 3 E's. The first one is education. And so finding resources inside of education, whether it be through podcasts, whether it be through social media, whether it be through publications, educate yourself on the topic. It could be stock investing, it could be real estate. So entrench yourself in that, right? The next one is examples. And so that would be like finding mentors or somebody that's doing it in a space. So like I was lucky to be next to somebody who had a business background, right? I also was able to find things on my own. I was able to watch people who I looked at like, all right, that's an example of what I can aspire to be. And the next part is execution, right? And so like after I've educated myself, I found mentorship, I found people who can help me in this space. Now I got to take it upon myself to figure out how am I going to execute this information? What am I going to do with it? I feel like sometimes we get lost at that part. It's like, yeah, I've got the information, I got it, I've been watching, I've been reading, I've been doing, and I do nothing, I hoard it. And so that's been happening for generations. That's one of those other things that's changing. It's like people are not hoarding information anymore, they're giving it out, and now they're executing on it.
Yeah. There's a lot of when it comes to the information, though, again, I think people have to make their own decisions as to what they're consuming because there is a lot of information to take in now as well. That can sometimes be overwhelming for a lot of people, right? But I want to take the conversation to an area that I'm familiar with, and I know you guys are heavy in as well. And I was saying off the camera, obviously it's influential records. We like to talk about music. So I want to ask you guys about growing up in the Bronx, New York. What were you guys listening to growing up, or what tracks, there might be individual tracks for you both that stick in your mind that really have significance for you that your parents were maybe playing in the house, So I want to touch a little bit on musically some of the influences in your journeys.
Yeah. I always say I'm a true hip hop baby. Right. So born in the South Bronx, at the time when KRS-One had just started his career. I remember my dad brought up a vinyl and it had South Bronx and The Bridge Is Over. And I remember this is the best thing I've ever heard in my life. Like somebody's talking about exactly where I'm standing. And so, there's so much influence from KRS-One to Rockin to Coogee Rap to Nas to Jay, Big, Pac, obviously those guys, and now to, Drake and the Kendricks of the world. Music is the lifeline, man. It's been everything. It's a part of every, I can't think of a day when I'm not listening to music or haven't. In fact, the idea, when I was thinking of financial literacy, I was like, yeah, it's cool, but how do we make it relatable? And so the first thing that I thought of was like, let's use hip hop lyrics. And I'll never forget, the first lesson I wrote was on Jay-Z. He had this line on the very first song of Reasonable Doubt, Can't Knock the Hustle. And he said, all blacks got is sports and entertainment until we even. And I thought to myself, I'm like, is he right? Like, let's dig into that. Is he right? Like, all the success we've ever had or seen is from sports and entertainment. And so I created a lesson with the most successful people in sports and entertainment, and then I created another list with the most successful black people in the planet. And I wasn't surprised when I gave it to the students. They could name every person in sports and entertainment. They had no idea who the wealthiest black people in the world were. And that's because it didn't come from that. It came from natural resources. It came from business, right? It came from them creating businesses, and they were entrepreneurs. And it was like, damn, he was right. Right? But how do we debunk it? All right, let's create something around this. Like, let's create literacy around finance. And that was just a start. So like, Jay obviously was integral in that. And then, you know, anybody, like I said, we try to stay as relevant as possible. So if I have to use 21 Savage, I will.
I was going to say,
yeah.
in terms of current,
yeah,
who are you bumping, who, you know, what are you listening to currently?
Baby, okay. Like if a guy, like I hear what he's saying, right? Like when he, you know, I ain't made 100 million yet, I can't chill yet.
Okay.
Like he has that mindset,
Yes,
right?
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So yeah. It's encouraging. Even like a guy like Quavo, who's now talking about his watches and not buying bust downs anymore and talking about the valuation of them, it changes it. When Little Dirk talks about he has a trucking company, right? That wasn't the typical conversation, but it is now. And so like, let's use that to our advantage. If we know they have influence over the children who will, you know, be the future of our world, like let's start them early. Let's use the influences that they know and let's incorporate both the education piece.
Yeah, 100%. What about for you?
I mean, for me, it's like the 90s, the mid 90s, very nostalgic, even to this day. Like the way I dress, a lot of that is just, you know, it's reminiscent of that era. And that's kind of what the music that I grew up on. Like Nas's, It Was Written, probably my favorite album of all time.
Yes.
And it was for two reasons. It's the music that I really, you know, enjoy a lot, but just his persona on that album, like everywhere, how he was dressing, the haircuts, everything. And then from there, it's like AZ, like Raekwon, like that was stuff that I really like. Those are the kind of people that I really like looked up to in music when I was a kid. Was like, you know, I was real into that fashion, fly, hustler. Like, you know what I mean? Like that was something that I really like related to. And like I said, it still carries in me to this day, like how I dress, everything is like from that era. And then as we got, you know, transitioning to the 2000s, I mean, of course, like 50 Cent, that was big. When he first came out, like on the mixtape circuit, and how he was just taking other people's beats and making songs, and watching his whole journey, because I had seen his journey from when he opened up for Rough Rider Cash Money tour. Okay. He opened up, and it was like, you know, opening act with the, you know, when there was 100 people in a stadium, and he was the opening act. To see him become the biggest artist in the world, see him get shot. I remember before he was shot, and then how his voice changed, and I think that actually helped the music. Like, you know what I mean? Like the way he started slurring his words and he started doing melodies, like he really became a better musician after he got shot. So watching that journey, I was a big fan. Then Dipset. I remember when Dipset came out, and that first album was just classic.
I'm a super Dipset fan, so like talk about that a little bit, and obviously talking about the style as well, just to touch into that.
Obviously, for sure.
We can talk about Jim Jones and
shout out to Jim, that's my guy.
We've had him on the series as well. But
Jim.
Touch on that, Eric. Continue.
It was just legendary, man. At that time, I used to play basketball, so I was in prep school in Florida, one of the top basketball schools in the country called IMG Academy. So I was there, and you know, I'm from New York, but I'm listening to all my music, and the music that I'm listening to is just Dipset. I listen to that album every single day. And
just the diplomatic community, the double CD, the double vinyl.
Yeah. So, man, they controlled. I'd never seen anybody have that much influence as far as, you know, everybody wanted to dress like Cam and Jewels and wear throwback jerseys and fitted hats that was too big. And it was just...
we were trying to do that out here as well. Like, don't get it twisted, man. We had SAS, part of Dipset, you know, there were some guys. But
yeah, so it was like, you know, that whole era was just like really, really big, man. So that was a major influence to me at that time. And then like fast forwarding it to the new guys, I mean, of course, Drake, you know, can never...
You can never dismiss
Drizzy, dismiss Drake, man. He's probably... Kanye West also. I gotta give Kanye his credit.
Oh, we want to touch on that topic. We can do that.
Kanye, I see you got the Yeezys on, man. Yeah. Kanye, I remember I was in college and Graduation came out, and that's another album I play every day. I play Graduation every single day.
I shipped him that album.
So, like, music for me, like, you know, it used to help me get through moments and times. Right. So, like, you know, like, even Usher's album, Confessions, like that was something I played a lot. Like, you know what I mean? I related to a lot of this stuff. So different times you relate to different artists. And at that time for Kanye, Graduation, like it just, everything he was just talking about, like wait till I get my money right. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I just was really, really into the whole Yeezy movement, man. So it's been a couple different times in history where like artists really helped shape me personally. And then, you know, fast forward to where we are now, like he said, Lil Baby to me is the one artist that kind of bridges the gap because it's like he's from Atlanta and he got that southern, he's country, but he is nostalgic to the 90s hustler era where it's like the things that he rap about is like real. Like he's not rapping about a lot of like stupid nonsense, like being a drug addict. Like he's a street dude, but you could tell like he has a level of common sense. And the things that he talks about is very relatable. Nipsey Hussle was another big influence. So he's another one like that. Like Nipsey reminded me of that 90s era where it was like, you know what I'm saying? Like you can actually listen to him and be like, all right, I could, get where he's coming from. I could understand it. I could see the picture that he's painting and I could see the vision. Like it's not just a rapper. Like, he's bigger than just putting words together, rapping about nothing. So like Victory Lap, still one of my favorite albums. That's another album I play every day. I play Victory Lap every day.
Did you guys get to connect? Did you ever connect with
We never met
Nip?
him, but we went to a show in New York. And it's crazy because Nip was one of the people that we definitely wanted to interview. And we felt that we could have definitely had that interview. But after his passing, we've been able to connect with pretty much almost every single person on his team.
Yep.
And we've become good friends with almost every single person on his team. And they all said the same thing, like, yo, Nip would have loved y'all. So rest in peace to Nip. So that's a long answer, but that's some of my musical influences.
We got to see him. So his last show in New York was at Irving Plaza. And so I remember, I'm like, yo, as soon as he goes on tour, we're going. So I bought 10 tickets. Then I started calling people like, who wants to go? I had to find 10 people to come with me. But I'm glad we did, because we got to experience his culminating event, which was Victory Lap. So that was dope. I forgot Nip. He had huge inspiration.
Yeah. And I think touching on Nip takes us nicely to the next point I was going to ask you guys about. I remember when Nip was selling his album at his own price. So I think it was $100 for the album.
$100 mixtape, yeah.
Now, just, that ties in, I think, because that was a move that a lot of people were like, well, yo, what the hell's going on here? Like,
Proud to pay.
And it worked well for him, right? Like, he took that decision, he believed in his product, he was obviously selling it directly to the people as well, and he set his price point at that. Like, touch on that and that move, essentially, like, from your perspective.
Nah, it was big, man. That's one of the things I really liked about Nip. I respect his entrepreneurship more than anything. Like, you know what I'm saying? For him to have that idea and that vision early on, and he wasn't a huge star at that time, to say I'm gonna have $100 mixtape, Proud to Pay, and then he bundled it together with, like, you got, I think you got some merch, you got tickets to a show. So it was a whole experience. Kind of like how NFTs are now, honestly, if you think about it. Like, he was kind of ahead of the curve when it comes to that. And just the whole way that the vision that he had for the Marathon clothing, Marathon brand, Marathon store. So, watching his business moves was very inspiring. And that's something I respected. I always respect the entrepreneurs. So that's something that he was real big on, is ownership, staying independent until it was time to sign with a major, but still owning his masters, selling a $100 mixtape, knowing your value, not letting people dictate your value to you. Right. So I feel like, that's something that, I respected off the rip. Even before I got into his music, I respected him. And then when I got into his music, I'm like, okay, like, I understand it even more now. So yeah, definitely that's something that, was a moment for sure. And I'm glad that, he got a chance to do that, because it really helped pave the way for, like, even new artists like La Russell. See what he's doing. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but
y'all up on him?
I need to check him out.
Yeah, so he got a dope thing where he does the pay what you want. Right. He's out the Bay Area, so like he'll do a show and you could pay whatever you want. Like, you know what I'm saying? There's no price point for it. So it's like some person might pay $1,000, some person might pay $1. But he's like, it equals out. Right. And he does the same thing with his merch. He just opened a restaurant where you pay what you want. So it's an interesting business model. Yeah.
It's the evolution of Proud to Pay, right? Because most people are like, well, what if somebody pays nothing? That's cool, but there's gonna be somebody like me who his album comes out, I'm gonna overpay, right? I paid $500 for his album just because I support his vision. Somebody might pay $2 for it. The reality is, if that averages down to $27, that's more than he would have made if he sold the album through a major label, right? When you take about points and royalties from the album, he's probably getting 7 points from the album, which is like 7 cents per every sale. Right. So he probably makes $2 per album, whereas now if he sells it direct to consumer, he's making 27. And so it's just that mindset. I think it's the evolution of what Nip was talking about when it's Proud to Pay. But the Nip thing comes from the power of education. Yeah. That wasn't an idea he plucked out the air. He actually was an avid reader, and he saw that in a book, right? And that's where he came with the Proud to Pay program. And so just thinking about like when we go back to that power of information, that was a prime example of it. And now we get to see the Russell with the evolution of it, right? So the Proud to Pay restaurant, just think about that. Like now that feeds people who don't have the means to eat, right? So you get a homeless population, especially where he's at in Oakland, that now can eat for free if they like. And we could have people that could come in and support if they like. And so it blends communities. That really forms community. So, I mean, what Nip did, incredible. Obviously, Jay supported that and helped the movement and made a lot of notoriety for it. But it shows the power of information and when it's applied and it's executed, and then when it's replicated and excelled.
I think you've touched on it already, but slightly more in depth about what change have you guys seen from the artist perspective and the athletes perspective, especially in the black community, a lot of the people that you know, in terms of how they're now using and managing their money. You know, like we hear about it all the time. There's chains, they invest in cars. I'm not saying like, I still know like hella artists and DJs that have these, in America, you have the car shows and, but these are like top people. But generally the change in maybe mindset of a lot of these artists and athletes, what have you guys seen into how they're going about things now?
I think they definitely are becoming more aware.
Right.
They definitely are becoming more business minded. They definitely are becoming more, involved and interested in entrepreneurship and investing. And that's kind of become like trendy. And, it's popular in the music. Like another person that I forgot to mention, but he's a very important person when it comes to the entrepreneurship, is Rose, Rick Ross. Like, you know what I'm saying? So Ross, good friend of ours, shout out to Rose. But, even Nip said, I fuck with Rick Ross because he's teaching wealth. And like he put that message in his music and he shows it too. Not just putting the music, he actually showing it. Like, I'm really living here. I'm really doing these moves. I'm really owning 37 Wingstops and, Checkers and all of these different franchises. So it's like, now he putting that kind of message in the music. So now it's becoming a cool thing to become an entrepreneur. It's not just cool just to just sell 1 million records. It's like, you can sell 1 million records, but how much money you making? If you don't own your masters, like, we're not respecting it. So, you got artists that's actually putting the music out there like that. And I feel like now, the new thing is like, okay, what do you own? What do you have? What are you invested in? It's not like just what kind of chain do you have or what kind of car you driving. Of course, that's still there. That's always going to be part of the culture. But, I think it's a little bit more than it was, previously.
Yeah, I think it's the power of the example, right? And so when we look at especially those two career fields that we always thought we had to aspire to be, when we look at sports and entertainment and we look at the examples inside of it, a lot of them are making money outside of what they're known for, right? So even if we look at Jay was a millionaire, right? But when he started investing in Douce and other things in spirits, he became a billionaire. Even somebody like Rihanna, who was great in music, just iconic in music, but Fenty Beauty has now made her, she's made her the same way. Right. And so the things that they're doing, the examples that we're seeing is coming from outside of what they're known for, their core thing, which has been entertainment. Even in sports, when we look at what LeBron's doing, right? This is one of the greatest athletes that we've ever seen. Yeah. But he might be the greatest businessman that we've also seen too, right? Especially what he's doing and building his own economy from the people that have been around him, whether it was Rich Paul with Clutch Sports or Spring Hill Entertainment. They're building ecosystems, and so we're seeing it firsthand. And so when athletes look at it, they know that, wait, there's more to this, right? Like that's why they call it more than an athlete, right? Because there's so much more that you could be doing. And a lot of these people are very young, and they're coming into a lot of money. And so when we don't know what to do with money, we're gonna spend it. But if we watch what Bron's doing, right, we watch even guys that are creating their own spirits, like a guy like Rose or a guy like 50 Cent. I seen The Rock created his own spirit. It's like people are starting to see the trend. It's gonna happen. Yeah, there's one lane, but there's so many other ones that you can venture in if you start your own business. And so it's encouraging to see it because now if we don't know what to do with money, we at least have some examples that we've lived through and we can actually aspire to do. In music as well. I know we just spoke to Irv Gotti, but selling your catalog, we're seeing artists do that now. They're like, wait, that's an actual way. That's a thing. Yeah. That's a thing? Yeah, this product that I made 20 years ago can now be worth this. And so it's encouraging, man. There's so many ways to make money, but now that we know them, it's time to like really elevate and execute on them.
And I think on a personal one, I know you're going to want to shout out everyone that you've had on, but personally for you both, which guest who's blown your mind in terms of like what they've, when you sat with them and what they've achieved for you guys, like individually, personally? Like?
Music or just in general?
Let's go music.
Music.
Yeah.
T.I. is definitely a very intelligent person, and that's one of my favorite rappers of all time.
Right.
So he's another one that actually played a big part in influencing me. So sitting with T.I. was an interesting conversation because you could just see how smart he is. You could just see, you know, how his brain is working. And he's been able to accomplish a variety of different things, from real estate to the music side, invest in stocks. He pretty much does everything. You know, he has a museum. So T.I. was definitely somebody that I was impressed with. I wasn't surprised because I kind of already knew that he was obviously intelligent and that he had a lot going on, but I never had a conversation with him. So to have a conversation with him and to actually hear him talk and explain things to me, that was somebody that was definitely impressive.
Yeah, I would say T.I., but I'll use Dame Dash.
He was just here.
Yeah, he was. He definitely was. He definitely was.
You met with him?
He had a party and we was...
Yeah, I spoke to him. He said he had a good time out here.
Dame is, I mean, just somebody that we watched growing up, like Rockefeller. Like in my mind, I was part of Rockefeller.
Yeah, we all were.
To this day, like if I see guys that affiliate with them, like I gotta go speak. Like we ran into Jay Brown the other day, and to most people in the room, they're probably walking past like they don't know who this guy is. But in my mind, I'm like, I've been waiting for this moment my whole life to meet this guy. So there was the same thing when we sat down with Dame, just the knowledge that he's impacted in our lives or installed in our lives. It was just like incredible. I remember in 2015, that Breakfast Club interview, when he was talking about business and entrepreneurship, I was just like, damn, like I'm sitting where, it was mind blowing. I'm looking like, yo, he's really right. And you know, we even had a conversation. I'm like, yo, Dame's really on to something. Like he's really right. And to see, you know, the way that the world works from the entrepreneurial lens, it was like, damn, what am I passing down to my kids? And so to have him come on the show, obviously spread a lot of information, but have a relationship after the show. Obviously something that, you know, every time we call on, he answers the call. And if we ever need him, he's there for us for advice, or if we need him to come to an event, he's always there. So Dame is definitely one of those guys for sure. Dame, Big and Jay, like,
Do you think regarding Dame, do you think it's just the delivery sometimes that maybe he loses some of the message? You know,
he's passionate about what he believes in.
So he definitely stands on it. Like he's talking about the same stuff when he came over here to everyone. You know.
Yeah, and so everybody's message is going to be different, and how it's going to be delivered is different. But let's take the core context of what he's saying. How important is it? How valuable is it? You know, how applicable is it? A lot of things he's saying are true. And a lot of things are applicable. It's just that we have to have the right mindset to execute on it. So yeah, I mean, we've had conversations with him, and you know, he's had harsh talks with us.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, when we look at each other, like, yo, he's right.
Yeah.
You know, he's absolutely right. Like, why aren't we asking these questions? How come we're not seeing it like that? Why aren't these things being done this way? And that he's speaking from past experience. And so anytime, you know, somebody like that speaks, you got to listen.
Also, regarding the UK, we're here. We have to touch on the UK man them, the artists. I know you guys are plugged in. I know for a fact you were at the hot party yesterday with Skepta.
Yeah.
Jump off, but I don't want to be biased. Like, I'll throw it out to you guys. Who are you messing with out here? Like, what you listening to and what you feeling out here?
Well, first, shout out to Gigs.
Come on.
You know, I always heard about Gigs, obviously, and then Hove. I see a lot of Hove and Gigs. Like, that's a big compliment.
How crazy is that for the US demographic to hear
big.
that?
That's big. A lot of times people don't even know like what one bar can do for somebody. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of people that might not even be familiar with him, but then just Jay-Z saying that, they research and they looking online, they looking at freestyles, like, you know what I'm saying? So, but I was already familiar with him from before. I know Swizz was rocking with him a lot. Drake had him on his album. So he's somebody that's done a lot of groundwork. And from what I've heard, like, he's like the godfather.
Oh, he's the integral, we call him the landlord. Like,
the landlord. I was going to say the landlord for sure.
So
yeah.
It's his house.
Long story short, shout out to my guy Mano. I ran into Mano yesterday, and we know him. So I asked him, I'm like, yo, can you introduce me to Gigs? And he's like, yeah, for sure. So he introduced me. He was super cool, down to earth, real humble. Had a good convo about a few things. So that really impresses me, because I'll be fans of music, but then I'm like, some people kind of throw you off when you meet them, and they like got super egos and they just weird energy. So it's like, you know, it's always good to meet somebody and their energy matches up. So I definitely gotta tip my hat to Giggs. I heard he's putting out new music. I'm definitely interested.
Put out a new record last night. It was crazy.
So shout out to Giggs, man, and of course Skepta. We were at his party. He's a legend in the game, and just listening to the music that he was playing yesterday, I'm like, this is vibes. Yeah. And then Central C. That's somebody that we got introduced to last time we was in London. I think he had just put out a project. And he's blowing up, like, you know, in America.
Worldwide.
Yeah, in America,
his team is worldwide.
Playing his song on the radio. And when I heard him on the radio, I'm like, oh, that's Central C, like from the UK. So, yeah.
That is, I mean, Skepta obviously the top on my list. Before the music, I was rocking the kicks, right? So like we went into the Puma thing. I'm like, wait, what happened to the Nike deal? Like, because I had the 3 Nike kicks that he had. So Skepta is definitely influential, even from a fashion sense.
Yes.
Like he's not just a guy that is in music. He transcends that. So when you see him in Paris at a fashion show and he's walking the runway, it's like, oh, nah, this dude is different. Central C, of course.
There's also DJ Skepta as well. You know, he's been DJing out in Ibiza as well, man.
I saw him
That's
like
crazy.
last night. He was behind. I'm like,
oh, was he behind?
Yeah. So he had the mic. He was in front of the stage, and I saw him behind. I'm like, okay, he's getting busy. So he said Central C, obviously Giggs, and Dave. I think Dave's incredible.
Okay.
And I caught wind of him by, I think there was a performance in Toronto, and he was just. I'm like, there's hundreds of thousands of people. Yeah. I'm like, wait, who is this guy? So I started doing research on him and finding like his entrepreneurial mindset. And so it's encouraging. I feel like a lot of the artists here, and that's why one of the things I ask you, like, who's the major label? Because I feel like everybody has this independent grind. And they're all trying to figure it out, and they're all diving into other things. Like a lot of them are doing real estate. And so it's like, oh, they catch a wind of that thing that we have. Like, this is our talent, but that's not exactly who we are. Right, we're going to dive into other things, and business is one of those. So it's dope, man.
And I think sometimes for some of the UK artists that are just jumping in or blowing up real quick, they don't have, we spoke about it, but they don't maybe have all of the knowledge regarding the whole independent, you know, some people are like, they're stringent, like we just want to be independent, they don't want to hear nothing else. Even if the offer's like crazy, they just, you know, it's been like zoned into them that you just got to be independent, that's it. But sometimes you've just got to be open to understand what's going on. And you know, we spoke off camera and you was asking me about some of the artists, and I'm going to put you up on a whole heap of others as well, but I need to make sure I shout out K-Trap, Rimsey, and also a couple of gigs is Man Them, Tiny Boost, Suspect. You know, I'm going to put you up on all of that.
Rimsey was at our event, right?
Yeah, I told you.
Listen, Rimsey, my brother. We're going to apologize in advance. If had I known, I would have just brought you in, my brother. But don't worry, we're going to make up for that.
Yeah, no, that's love.
He got caught in the queue.
Yeah, he got caught on the tape. I spoke to him last week and he just said, yo, Firestarr. Like,
he got to come to Royal Albert Hall. If he wants to come, let him know.
Yeah, 100%, man, 100%.
Dipset had some artists back in the day.
SAS.
Yeah,
yes.
And then D-Block, they had some.
Well, D-Block, we got D-Block Europe out here.
Yeah.
So we got young.
Because I heard a freestyle that was pretty dope. I forgot his name, but it was an artist from the UK.
Right.
And they was freestyling. I think it might have been with Jadakiss, but it was a pretty dope freestyle. So.
Who? Yeah, it probably was D-Block Europe, so it'd be Young Ads, which is a member of.
How's he doing?
Oh, DBE. So yeah, DBE are crazy, massive. France? No, they're from here.
From UK? Okay.
Yeah.
Massive.
Huge.
Yeah, fire.
Huge. It's on that wavy. Their music's the wavy vibe. You know, I don't want to compare it to anyone's, but obviously the wave vibe, like Little Baby stuff. You know what I mean? That kind of.
And then the drill scene out here is interesting because you know drill is real big in New York right now.
Yeah.
And a lot of the producers, like I heard, like Pop Smoke's producer was from the UK.
Yeah, Axel and
Axel.
Yeah. No, it's not Axel.
He got a dope drop.
There's a whole heap of producers on the drill stuff, but yeah, when Pop Smoke was.
Yeah, so even I think Fabio Foreign.
Yeah, we spoke about it. I spoke about it with Fabio, and you know, I had the conversation to just say, look, can you just put it out there that, you know, give the UK the love that it deserves for the producer side of the drill thing. And, you know, he said it openly, like, you know, nearly 90%, 100% of the beats that are coming out of like Brooklyn drill, like, or, you know, NY drill or whatever, like, it's coming, the producers are from your side, like, you know.
That's
so
dope.
The drill thing is like, it's huge, obviously, like globally now, but here as well, like you'll be in the club and like, I think we touched on, you spoke to or you met Tion Wayne as well, or you're having conversations with him. He's another one that's like.
He's drill?
He's
drill artist?
He's a drill, well, he wasn't before, but he's predominantly like on drill now. and it's just done a mad thing for him. Like, so you tend to hear him more on drill stuff. But he was rapping before, like, as well. But just shows the power of like the shift from
things change.
You know, that's the like that when you hear a Central C record, it's going to be a drill beat always, like in some form, you know, different melodies or whatever. But it's a drill rhythm, like.
Stefflon Don's from here?
Yeah, Stefflon Don's from here.
She
so
dope.
yeah, man. There's a lot of artists that, you know, you're gonna, I think over the next few days, you're gonna meet, you're gonna be at your parties, and might see a couple of surprises on Monday as well.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that.
You never know, we're working on it.
But yeah,
There
cool.
you have it.
So before you guys run out of here, I know we haven't got long left, what do you want to let the people know in terms of, obviously, let them know again what we got coming up over this weekend on Monday as well, and anything else you want to let the UK know? Obviously, you're going to be regular faces in the culture here, I hope. You know, you're building strong. We've seen the numbers, like, so let the people know, man.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, thank you for your support. UK has always been good to us, one of our biggest markets outside of America. So we plan to do a lot more things here, collaborate with people that's from the UK, keep building. Thank you for having us, appreciate it. And yeah, if it's still time when it comes out, Royal Albert Hall on Monday, Halloween Day, that's going to be a legendary situation. So it's a you know, when you look at, you know, education, we were always taught that education only comes from school. Like, you got to go to school and get an education. That kind of turned us off because we weren't interested in the way that the people was teaching us. But education is the only thing that can really save you. But what they didn't say was that education is way bigger than just what you learn in school. Like, education comes from a variety of different sources. And what we're providing now is real-time information that actually change your life and change your family's life. So it's an investment in yourself, it's an investment in your children, it's an investment in your family. So anytime you're able to receive that information, I think you've got to take advantage of it. So this is going to be a life-changing experience on Monday. And if you're able to make it, you know, you should definitely come. And, you know, once again, we've done a lot of groundwork in the UK. Our partner is 19 Keys. I know he's big out here, too. Yep. You know him?
Yep.
Yeah, I know he's big out here. So the UK is something that we're very interested in. And like I said, we're looking to highlight entrepreneurs. We're looking to build with, you know, the local people here because it's important. And I think the message of financial literacy, we have to spread it all over the world. So, you know, not just America where we're from, but, you know, Jamaica and Africa and the UK and Asia and all over. So this is something that, you know, they try to keep information from us for a very long period of time. The ruling class, you know, it's obviously in their best interest to keep things as they are, the status quo, but the world is changing. And being that the world is changing, like, you know, I feel like we have an opportunity to take what's ours. Like, you know what I mean? The world is yours, so you might as well take it.
Jeez, bars.
Yeah,
bars.
sure.
So you're going to get a Nas.
You're
You're going to get Nas in there.
No, for sure. Troy, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with what you said, and that's something that I've learned coming from education is that, you know, learning doesn't stop within the four walls of that building. It has to expand outside of it, whether it's from the kitchen table, whether it's being around your peers, whether, like I said earlier, listen to podcasts or finding other resources, mentorships, and this is going to be a great opportunity. I mean, there's so much love here, and there's so many people who need the information. And it's encouraging. Like when we walked the streets last night, it was like people just stopping us, like, "Yo, what are you doing here?"
Yeah.
And it goes back to that thing, like once they see it, it's like, "Yo, I can be them."
Yep.
They're really here. Like they're in the parties with us. They at the restaurants where we eat, right? They're going to the places we go. We showed up at an event last night. They're like, "Yo, you're in the right place."
Yeah.
And we intentionally are in the right place because we know that's where the people are. So this isn't one of those things where you watch somebody on the internet and you never go see them in real life. Like we want to be exactly where the people are because that's who's championing us and that's who's, you know, been vital in our success. And so every time we get to deliver, we're going to do that. And you know, we're going to do exactly that on Monday at Royal Albert Hall. It's going to be a prestigious night. It's going to be a regal night. We will be dipped in the freshest attire. And so I encourage everybody to come at the same so we can have a historic moment. And that's exactly what it is. You know, like when we looked in the books and we looked, you know, online now, when they document historic moments, right? Somebody's looking like, yo, I was in that picture. Yep. And so everybody has the opportunity to do that this coming Monday. So I encourage everybody to be there.
Big. I want to big you guys up for passing through. E.Y.L in the cut.
Yeah.
Firestarr. We're looking forward to Monday. Some special guests, hopefully, as well. Maybe. You know, we're still working on a couple of things.
That's some massive things to do.
Don't talk too much about that. We'll see what happens. But I know it could be take it to a whole nother level from what I'm hearing, but you'll see how it goes down. But yeah, I want to big you guys up, man. So thank you, man.
I appreciate you. Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it, brother.